was asked by Paul to present a journey on which we have been in Serbia, and he has been part of it for quite a while, even not directly involved. But the thing here, some basic facts about the place I come from. Serbia used to be part of one country that was initially called Kingdom of Serbs, Croats and Slovenians from 1918. And from 1919 up until 1990, it was Yugoslavia. So it was one of republics in it. The Second World War actually started with Croatia proclaiming independence from that big state of Yugoslavia, and the first wave of refugees in Serbia actually was huge within the Second World War because on the territory of Croatia there was the biggest concentration camp for children and Jews and Orthodox Serbians outside Poland in the Second World War. So quite a lot of people came in. Then we had peace and whatever development like most of the other countries in Europe for quite a good while. And then in 1990 it all fell apart. Funny enough, if you think about the reasons for wars, apart from all the work we do, at the times of good socioeconomic situation in the country, when unemployment is low, when people can fulfill their dreams, when children can actually fulfill whatever their potentials are, there is very little resistance to anyone who is different, based on any ground. The moment things go bad, you need an enemy. You need someone to blame. And who you blame? The first door neighbor. Because he is the one who is closest to you. So that's how it all starts. And then when it all falls apart, then you end up like we did with over 750,000 refugees in a country that currently has around 7 million people. That was, up until 2 years ago, up until the Balkan route for the migrants from Middle East, Serbia was the biggest refugee land in Europe, up until the migrants. So this is the context in which we have worked. The other thing that was also important is that all out of those 750,000 people who moved in the period 1990 to 1995, only 50,000 returned or went elsewhere to the third countries. So the rest are still in Serbia, and now they have become the citizens of Serbia. The problem is that in addition to having a multi-ethnic country in the first place, we have official 26 minorities in the country. The people who have come in two waves of refugees have a very bad personal and family experience, which makes them rather radical in terms of how they perceive others, in terms of how flexible they are not. In making bridges, building bridges, and living together with others. In addition to all that, we have 8 minority groups, ethnic minority groups, that have complete education in their own mother tongue within Serbia, if they want to. And then they only learn Serbian, which is an official language, as a foreign language. So they speak it, or do not speak it, like any other foreign language, which means that when they graduate, it's a very limited area in which they can get employment, because they don't know the majority language. So segregation and animosity in North between Serbian and Croatian population, given the history of two big waves of refugees coming, and in south between Albanian and Serbian population. Obviously, you all know about Kosovo, Albania, Serbia troubles. So these are two really hot spots. So this is the context in which we actually worked. So, by chance, but there is no thing that happens for no reason in the world, I was working for an NGO as a country director in Serbia in 2003, and the regional manager of that international grouping invited Siobhan to a meeting in Hungary, so you can imagine the whole setup, where the two of us met for the first time March 2004. June 2004, we were already not here in Belfast, in Newry, and we discovered quite a few programs that Early Years was actually handling, implementing with their various groups of children and adults. So in 2005, there was a conference, Early Years conference, to which we were invited, and there was a guy, Paul Connolly. And he was just presenting the very first findings from Media Initiative, the first pilot, the 10 settings one. So at the break, the two of us just started chatting nicely, and I said, look, I really would like you to train the people in Serbia to do this type of research, and so that we can do the whole program. I said, yes, of course, no problem. And Paul goes on talking to some other people and forgets that they exist. 12 years later, he was actually presenting and giving a keynote speech about the program. And it was last September in Belgrade. So now he remembers me. Anyhow, since 2006, we were trying to develop the Media Initiative in Serbia. We did everything we could under the skies. Earlier specialists were in Serbia talking to the government people. Eleanor Mearns and other specialists came to Serbia to do the orientation kind of 3-day training, just to feel the ground and whether it would work in the society as Serbian was. We talked to everyone and anyone, and well, whoever knows Siobhan and me knows that there is no way we can give up on anything. 2007, we were in the international network. From 2009 to 2012, within the international network that Siobhan was talking about, we were developing an international toolkit, manual, resources, and the whole package that was initially based on Media Initiative, but grew out of it to much larger and more comprehensive program that we thought we could adapt and use anywhere in the world. In the group of people who were developing this international toolkit, obviously there were people from Early Years, there were people from Cindy, people from Palestine, from Israel, from Egypt, from Albania, from Lebanon, from South Africa, Nepal, Egypt. So it really took in all our experiences in what may or may not work into development of that program. So, believe it or not, in 2012, we did win a huge 4-year contract with European Union, to do the program. And the program was called PRECEDE as an acronym, which stands for Partnership for Reconciliation through Early Childhood Education and Development in Europe. And this program was actually for developing the regional approach in the Balkans, in Croatia, Serbia, Macedonia, Kosovo, Montenegro, and Albania as a close neighbor and a partner that we have been working with all the time. So, what happened was that in the first 2 years, the program was implemented in these countries, obviously assisted by early years and the other members of the international network. And then we added Montenegro as the 6th country in the last 2 years of the program. What we were doing, initially, we were having 10 groups. Paul asked me to talk about Serbia, but this relates mostly to every country that was involved. 10 groups per country, so 10 settings in Serbia as well. Children between 3 and 7. A mix of rural, urban, single ethnic, multi-ethnic, single faith, mixed faith groups. In total, in Serbia, for the first pilot, we had 334 children, 131 parents involved, and 26 teachers. Now, how we did it, based on the methodology that Shimon was also talking about, we did the training, we showed all the resources, we introduced the international toolkit manual, we did pre-evaluation with children, parents, and teachers, and for that, we thought that the best way around would be to use the instruments developed by the Queen's University for the Media Initiative pilot. So we asked the Queen's University, actually, Paul and his colleagues, to give us the permission to adapt the instruments only to our context, because talking about Protestants and Catholics and green or orange color in the Balkans would make really no sense to anyone. So we had our own explicit symbols that we used. We did only 3 months of piloting after that, but I'll show you. But we had monitoring monthly. People who were going around on monthly basis monitoring the implementation to make sure the basic fidelity to the whole concept and program. And then we did the post-evaluation and data analysis. And 3 months, we are talking about 3 months. The teachers, to the question of to what extent do you think that young children, 3 to 7, tend to notice differences in others? If you look at the teachers, and this was the most shocking piece of the whole thing for me, in pre-project, you had rarely 17%, 13%, not at all. So together it's 1/3 basically of the teachers. And then you had the figures of sometimes and frequently. But look at the figures after 3 months. So my first question then was, who the hell are these preschool teachers working with? Because if you are watching the same group of children day after day, all day long, and you don't really realize that they do recognize differences, who are you looking at? A bit milder picture was with the parents, but certainly still showing how little adults as such were aware how that the young children actually do notice the differences. The second thing that is also telling was, to what extent do you think the children would tend to exclude others or have negative answer to any recognition of difference? And look at the numbers here. Sometimes 23.9 up to 47 after 3 months of working. So what you can see is actually total, not just ignorance, but totally not thinking about these issues. And once the attention was focused on things that they should look for and pay their attention individually to each child, how she reacts to something, then you got these results. But the third thing, which was also telling, was could actually I help if a child comes with negative influence? Pre and post. See that there is a difference. The biggest one is in undecided, from 6.8 to 2 down to 2.9, and I don't agree. I can't make any difference down from 9 to 1, because they realize that they actually can have tools. And why I'm showing you this? Because this was the biggest buy-in from everyone. In the second phase, if you want, from 2014 to 2016, we were having 21 groups, not because we planned so, but because the word went around and the preschools and the settings were asking for the program. And we actually had to say no to some of them because we couldn't provide through the project that many resource packs, which are costly. And we felt that it wouldn't be fair on them to give them the training and not give them the tools to actually work with. So the thing is that 21 groups, the same thing, but then we had 650 children, 396 parents, and 58 teachers. That's only for Serbia now. The thing is, we, in the meantime, based on the data analysis and based on the qualitative part, which came from the mentors monitoring the program, we adapted the international toolkit further, not just in terms of colors, but in sports, but also in terms of other things, so that they could actually sit better with our culture and our context. And then did additional training, and again did pre-evaluation, pilot for full school year, and did the monthly monitoring and introduced the mentoring system as a critical friend, as you were talking about, and post-evaluation. Now, data analysis and and what did we get out of all this? In Serbia and some other countries, there is a system of mandatory in-service training for the preschool teachers, whereby they have to have certain number of hours of in-service training over a certain number of years in order to get the license or keep the license. So, and then there is a national authority to which you can apply with the proposed training modules, and if they are accredited, that goes against the credits towards their license. So in in Serbia and in other 2 countries where it was possible, we actually managed to get the national accreditation for the training program. And we have the initial group of the local trainers that, through the international network and constant cooperation with early years, we always think of getting refresher courses and getting more strength into them. We have developed a national toolkit as a final result of all these adaptations that is based on the international one, only has these local direct things. Now, what are the opportunities that were given through all this? These were safe opportunities for both parents and teachers to speak up about their own experience, and this was the very first time for them. No training is actually provoking them to speak up, especially not in the group. Normally, they shy away from speaking about these issues because either they feel that it wouldn't be appropriate, or it would hurt someone, or they are ashamed of what they feel, regardless of the cause of the feeling. Building professional ties among the teachers from different backgrounds, and this was unbelievably big thing. In Bujanovac, which is the southernmost municipality in Serbia, 1/3 of population is Albanian, 1/3 of population is Serbian, and 1/3 is Roma. Segregated totally educational system, Roma and Serbian children go from preschool onwards into Serbian language taught school. Albanian children go to the Albanian preschool and onwards. Preschool teachers from these two groups, since both participated in the program, got together and developed their own presentation on how it worked, what they did, and what they have achieved, and presented it at the national conference of the preschool teachers in Serbia, together as a joint presentation. An Albanian and a Serbian preschool teacher. And probably since early 80s, this was the very first time that they did something together within the country. The second thing, building regional professional ties and joint research papers, because this was a regional program, and we did have strong research component within it from the beginning. A Croatian university professor and Serbian university professor in pedagogy were involved in this program right from the beginning. The two of them developed a research paper and presented it at the international conference, and now it's being accepted to be published in one of the recognized journals. I'm not into it, so I don't know which one it is. I know it's in one of those high up levels and categories. But the thing is that both within Croatia, they presented it at the conference together. They put as a paper together, and it's going to be published as a joint paper. Again, most certainly from the 90s onwards, not a case. Normalizing differences in the divided environments. I was telling someone the other day, we were having two international conferences. The latest one was when Paul was speaking in September. 2 years before that, a group of Croatian preschool teachers came in an organized way by a shuttle service between Zagreb and Belgrade, and we were sitting at the table at the dinner, and through the music and everything that I was talking about the other day, and one of them was telling me, look, as I was approaching the border, I felt a stone falling on my chest. A member of her family was killed during the 1990-1995 period. And she said that she would never, ever cross into Serbia again. She said, okay, she would go, and she was telling me, coming from Serbia and being a host, how difficult it was for her, and that she was actually telling herself that she was crazy, she shouldn't have been doing this to herself, it's not worth it. And then that evening, she actually looked around and said, I'm so glad I've done it. Now I can freely go anywhere. And the big point is that since it's, of course you understand that, and everyone would understand that if you talk about it in that way, the normalization of and understanding of what people have been going through over a longer period of time makes it possible for them to then communicate freely afterwards and just move around. Not for their own sake. They can never install prejudice into the children they work with because they don't feel it anymore. That anger and guilt and hatred is gone from them. So they cannot relate to others because something within them has changed. And that's the biggest, I think, impact on all these issues that we are dealing with. Of course, all these among children is obvious, we see it. There are research results that show the increase in children's awareness and positive attitude. I was just trying to focus on these ones now. And this strengthening of the awareness of the adults about young children's recognition of differences is very important because normally they feel that if we are talking here and the kids are playing in the corner, they would not pay attention to what we are saying. So it doesn't matter how we say and what we say. huh. The next day you hear them just repeating your words. But you have to be aware of that in order to think when and what you can actually say. And the challenge is, of course, not a rosy thing. Within the preschool teachers community, although we have been trying all we could to make it clear to them that it should be the way of working, not a project, not a program in addition to what they are doing. Ticking off the activities we've done, and I had a preschool teacher actually from one of the partner countries who said, I was asking about some issues related to emotions, and she said, oh, we did feelings last year. Okay. Now we have a credit in Serbia, for instance, and in other countries, we have in-service training, but no pre-service training is available. So it's our next step, actually, to work with universities to develop the modules that would go into pre-service training for future preschool teachers. And should I tell you anything about the political environment? I mean, it's obvious, and it doesn't help. And unfortunately, they force you actually to go back steps back in order to go forward again. So you can never actually feel that you're safe, you have accomplished this much, and tomorrow you carry on. No, tomorrow you may be 10 miles back again, and then fighting your steps forward just again. And this segregation in mixed ethnic places, if it's in different languages, the educational system, it makes it difficult for the joint activities because they do not speak the language of the other, which is, when you are dealing with young children, it's good, the activities and everything you can do, but the adults have to come together to speak the same language. So this is one of the challenges that still remains unsolved in many places. In Serbia, in some places, but also in other countries. Unfortunately, this is the first comprehensive program that actually is involving 3 to 7, but then they go to school. And if you don't have any follow-up to that, and nothing in curriculum ever is made to actually address these issues, so that's the step after that, to try to develop something to keep on working on this. So mentoring is not in the system, it's dependent on the projects and the money, and the parents change every year or 2 years, so you need to reach them in many years to come. And there is no further or outer support for the parents in these issues, because in our context, there was no psychosocial support to the victims of the war, or those who were fighting, or those who were suffering the losses. So this is something that makes it difficult in the long run. Oops, sorry. So I'll stop here because I'm aware of the time as well. If anything, we can answer either over lunch or in the afternoon or whenever. Thanks.